Hello remoters, it's time for another drawing video with Mr. Del Pazzo. Today we're going to draw a tree. I've got three really nice examples here to show you. We're going to draw a tree that doesn't have any leaves on it. We're just going to draw the branch. So we've got the trunk at the bottom, nice and wide, and then we're going to make branches that just go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. And we're going to fill up our whole piece of paper, however big your paper is. And we'll talk about the background. You can see where we colored in the tree with crayon, and the background is actually watercolor if you want to do that. I'm going to leave these because our paper is going to be vertical up and down, because our tree is going to be taller than it is wide. I can leave my examples here, and you can actually see them while I'm working, in case you want to check out those as well as the one that I'm drawing. Some very nice branches. And a cool sunset kind of in the background, because our tree is really not that colorful, but you could always do something cool in the background. Here's another one with a rainbow, and looks like a sun up there in the sky too. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so it's easy to draw a tree if you can just remember two simple steps. Now obviously I'm going to zip right through this. I'm going to go really fast so that the video is not that long. But you're going to want to pause it and rewind it, because once you figure out those two steps, just two steps, you'll be able to make a tree with a million branches. So I like to call them the Y and the V, right? So we know that a letter Y looks like that, right? A capital letter Y. That's the Y. But our Y is going to be a little different. I call it the Y because for us, our Y is going to be kind of like that. So it sort of looks like a Y to me. Right? It kind of goes up and apart, but you'll notice that there's actually a space between there. So our Y doesn't actually touch itself. The two parts don't touch. And then the V, of course, is just a letter, regular letter V. But if I put my V right inside that Y, but it doesn't touch the Y, look what happens. I have one branch go up, and it becomes two branches. And those two are going to become 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, like that. So the Y and the V. Again, the Y is a capital letter Y, but we kind of split it in half. They don't touch each other. And then if I put a V on the inside, and the V doesn't touch the Y either, you can see that I've got a branch now that I can color the inside of it. And we can make it as skinny or wide as we want, or we can make it as long or short as we want. All branches are different, just like first graders. So, piece of paper, pencil, eraser, and turn your paper vertical up and down. First thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the trunk. We're going to work from the bottom up. And you can make your trunk as wide as you want. I like to make mine a little bit wider at the bottom. They usually are, where they go into the ground, makes them stronger. And we'll just go up. It depends how big your paper is. If you're using a small piece of paper, then, your trunk is only going to be maybe 1/3 of it. 1, 2, 3. A little part of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a branch coming off each side. So from this line, I'm going to come up, I would say maybe about halfway from your tree to the side of your paper. And remember, they don't have to be the same, right? I can make it bend if I want. Branches bend all the time. So I'm going to make both of my sides a little different. You can make them the same if you want. What are you going to do? Now, usually branches at the bottom of a tree are going to be wider, right? And then as we get to the top of the tree, the branches will get thinner. If the big, heavy branches were at the top, they'd break off and fall because they're so heavy. So usually they're bigger at the bottom because they're getting more water, right? The water gets sucked up like a straw right through the roots, and it goes up the trunk and then out to these branches, and then it gets sent all the way up the other branches, all the way up into the leaves, and gives the leaves nutrients. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this branch a little bit wider. If I put my lines close together, my branch will be skinny. If I put my lines far apart, they're going to be wider. Now, because that line is bent, I have to make the other one bent too so it matches. So I'm going to go boom, boom. Looks like somebody dancing in a dress. So now I'm going to come out here. The important part about our tree is that we always want an opening where we can color the inside, right? Nothing is just going to be one pencil line because we can't color one pencil line. We need two so we can color the inside. So I'm going to turn this one branch into two. So I'm going to have a line go in this direction and that direction. You kind of see that kind of like a Y, right? It's a Y that tipped over, but it's still a Y. And I'm going to put my V right inside here. It has to be the same size. I can't make a little V like that because that wouldn't make very much sense. So I'm going to make my V just as big as my Y. Boom, boom. Notice the V never touches the Y. It's just kind of floating in space in there. So yeah, it's all by itself. Now I'm going to make those two branches 4 branches. So now I'm going to go out and Y. Here's my Y, V floating inside. And you can make them, like I said, you can make them bend. Now, there's 2 ways that we can finish a branch. We're done with it. 2 ways. One is to keep going until you run out of paper. There's my Y, put a V inside. That's it. That branch is done. I can't go any further because my paper's ended. Or, if I want to end that one, I don't want to make it grow anymore, I just snip it off. A straight line will look like someone snipped it. A ziggy-zaggy line will look like maybe it just naturally broke off. Up to you. Up to you. So that's one way to end the branch. Put a line across it. It's over. Or we go off the paper. So you can see on this one, most of their branches finished by going off the paper. You can see they went all the way to the top of the paper on the side. They do have some branches where they snipped it, snip, 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 right? You can make this tree as big as you want. If you have a big giant piece of paper, you can make a giant tree. So I'm going to stop there for now and I'm hop over here and I'm going to make another branch. This one, they go in different directions. Once again, it's kind of like our Y. And then I'll put a V right in there. And I just made 1 branch, 2 branches. Here's the good thing. Once you figure that out, you're going to zip right through this thing. Just going to go. The first couple branches might take you 15 minutes. You go, well, let me rewind this again. I don't know what he's talking about. Let me pause it. Let me rewind. Let me listen to this crazy guy again and again and again. Then you're going to go, I get it now. And then you'll just be able to make your tree as big as you want. You'll see. You'll see. So this one direction, different direction. There's my Y. My Y does not touch. See, there's a hole right through the middle. And then we put our V in there, and now I've got 2 branches. And now this one, I'm just going to go until I run out. Y, V, boop. This one, I'm just going to snip off, right? We'll make it look like someone just trimmed that with a chainsaw. Zip. Now, once you trim it, that's it. It's over. It's done. If you want to keep growing, you just erase that little line, and you can keep making it grow. Now, you'll notice I've got a big hole right here in the middle of my tree. That's because I'm going to make my trunk keep going up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a line on this side and this side. And then I'm going to turn that into a big fat Y. Remember, the Y always has a center. Our Y is not a regular Y like the alphabet, because I can't do anything with one single line. That's not going to work. Our Y is 2 lines up, and they go in opposite directions. And then a V goes inside. The V has to be just as big as the Y. Otherwise, it's going to look weird. So this one, maybe I'm going to snip this one off, or I'm going to make that look like it's a broken branch. And this one, I'm going to keep going. One direction, other direction, put a V inside. One direction, here's my Y, put a V. Maybe I'll snip that one off. I'll snip that one off. So that side is done. And now I'm just going to keep building. When you start a branch, or a new branch, you must have 2 lines. You must have one here and here. Okay? If you have one and you try to make branches coming off of it, right? That's a common mistake. If you see that, you go, okay, I did something wrong. I've seen that like 85,000 times. So when you see that, you go, oh, I messed something up. And what you did was you tried to make a thick branch on one pencil line. We can't do that. We have to have two pencil lines. Now I can make my Y because my Y doesn't touch itself. It's got a hole right down the center. And then I can put my V in there. And maybe I want to make a little branch. Maybe I want to make a big, long, bendy branch. As long, oh, I'll snip that one right off. Y, V. You see, Mr. Opalza, what do I do when I have two branches that look like they're going to run into each other? So what we can do, I can snip that one off. I can make this one go under, right? We've done overlapping before. Overlapping. My arm with the watch is in front. My arm with the marker is in the back. I can't see the parts of my arm back here, so I don't have to draw it. This one's going behind it. And we can do that with our branches. Branch in the front, branch in the back. And you can snip them off and keep them going. When you start to get to the top, you can make your branches a little skinnier, but don't make them so skinny you can't get a crayon in there. Because we're going to color it with a crayon. Y, Y, V. Y, wiggly Y, wiggly V. If my Y wiggles, my V has to also. Our V always matches our Y. Why? Because I said so. It's a little tree joke. Boop, boop, boop. Y, Y, V. Y, Y, V. So if I built my tree correctly, all the way to the top of the paper, if I made my tree correctly, I should be able to take my finger. I should be able to put it right inside here, and without ever touching a pencil line, I should be able to go all the way down my branch without ever stopping, and it should be open all the way to the bottom. Because if you made every branch with two sides, you should be able to go inside all of them. There should never be a place where it's closed or a single pencil line like I showed you before. So you can close any branch you want. So the only place we can make new branches is where we have an open branch like that. See right there, there's two lines, but it's open. It's open to the outside, to the sky. It's not closed. So if it's open, I can keep building. If my branch has two open sides, I can keep building. You can make your branches sideways. Some branches like to go sideways. And even though it's sideways, it still looks like a Y on the side. And I put a V. My V will be sideways. You can make one side of your Y long. You can make one side of your Y short. It doesn't matter. It's a branch. It can do whatever you want it to do. Now I say, oh, I have an empty spot up there. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to erase this pencil line right there. And now I can keep going because my Y is open. I have two open lines. And that way I can Y, V. See how easy that was? As long as you have two lines, one goes one way, one goes the other, and then to put a V inside. And it should all be open. I could take my finger, go all the way. Now my branch stops there, so that's where it ends. But if I go up here, I can go all the way to the top of my paper without ever touching a pencil line. Because we can't color in a single pencil line. We have to have two. And then we can color the inside of it. So they come up like this, and then your Y goes this way, your Y goes that way, and then you put a V inside, and now you got two branches, and we just keep building more and more. So we started with two branches, one here, and now we have, I don't even know how many, 20, 30, 56,000, I don't even know. I don't even know. Now, once you're done, if you have a Sharpie, if you have a marker or a pen or whatever, you can outline that if you want. And then you're going to color your tree in. Some people use two colors. This person used a brown, I don't know if you can tell. They used a brown and a reddish brown. So they actually blended two colors together. The most important part is covering your white space. That's what you want to do. And I'll tell you, it's going to take you a while. This might not be a 2-day project. This might not be draw it the first week, color it in the second week, and then you're ready for your next video after 2 classes. This might take you a little longer. That's okay. Your video, the next video will still be in Seesaw waiting for you. Okay, so don't worry about it. You get it done when you get it done. It's only a 40-minute art class that we take, so if you have to stop and rewind, when we do this in class, this takes us probably like 4 art classes. 2 times to draw the tree and 2 times to color the tree. So for you to do it in 2 might be a little bit tricky, but I'm sure you can do it if you want to. So you're going to color your whole tree in. Now, I recommend you start down here, because if you start up here, you might be coloring something that I've seen people do that too a lot. They just start coloring something, they think it's a branch and it's not. So I would start here. You know this is your trunk, and then you can just start coloring, and you go out this way and color. That way you'll know what is a branch. You can't erase crayon, so you might want to check before you actually color something way up there at the top. So take your time. It's especially if you make your branch. I didn't make my branches really skinny, but if you make your branches really skinny, trying to keep a crayon inside there is a little bit tricky. So take your time on that coloring job. Once you're done coloring the tree, we'll do some kind of a background. If you have watercolor, it's kind of easy because your tree is crayon, and if you get a little watercolor on your crayon, it doesn't stick because crayon has wax in it. So you just take a paper towel or a tissue, just wipe your tree off, and your tree will stay brown. Okay? Or whatever color your tree is going to be. Make it whatever color you want. So back here, what we did is we just took a pencil and maybe just made a very simple background. Maybe you want to do some mountains in the background. This one's got some grass, some mountains, and then a rainbow. If you want to do a rainbow, remember the tree's in the front, so whatever you're putting in the background goes behind it. So if I'm doing a rainbow, maybe I should use a different color. If I'm doing a rainbow, I would have to go behind the tree. That's kind of tricky. You could put a sun up there if you want. You could have mountains up higher. So you can do whatever you want back there. But watercolor does go faster because you can just kind of go right over the tree if you want and then just wipe it off. You can watercolor around the tree. It takes a little more time, but still watercolor goes fast. If you don't have watercolor and you want to do marker in the background, you can do that if you want. If you are not going to watercolor the background, you could use marker for your tree. But if you color your tree with marker, not crayon, do not watercolor the background. Because anytime your watercolor touches that marker, your marker is going to spread out. We call it bleeding in art. It's going to spread out and bleed, and it's going to make a mess of your tree. So if you're watercoloring your background, you're going to want to do crayon for the tree. Okay? When your tree is done, make sure you send me a picture of it in Seesaw, and I promise I will get back to you and comment how wonderful your tree. These trees always look wonderful. These trees aren't just like the best trees I've ever kept. No, they all look like this. So your tree's going to be fantastic. But remember to turn your paper vertical. We have a nice big tree. Okay? So I will see you guys later at the next video. I miss you guys. Bye. Send me your trees.